What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. I'm recording this Sunday night. We finished the flank. I packed for my trip to Florida. It's time to get in, recap all of the action from this weekend via our tier list. So let's dive in and see how things have changed when I did that tier list a few weeks ago. All right, so as usual, if you are new, let me give you a summary kind of how I do this. I don't like the letter grade stuff. People are like on the super... There's no S tier teams in Call of Duty right now, and this is why I hate it. So here's what we do instead. We start off with Sunday regulars, and these are like top 3, sometimes top 4 teams. It's called Sunday regulars because these are the teams that I expect to make it consistently the championship Sundays in their current form. Potential contenders is like the rest of the teams that are going to qualify for champs. So top 6, top 8. It really depends on like the form of this pack. Next, we have work to do. This is kind of evolved now into sort of the teams that are on the bubble for qualifying on champs. Like, I'll probably have some pretty glaring weaknesses, not just dealing with the parity of COD. Like, they have some issues they got to work on. And then missing pieces are teams that I think are just like either got to blow it up or they need a roster change or they're just kind of too far away from the competition. All right, let's start at the bottom with the Minnesota Rocker. And they did have their homestand this weekend in Wisconsin, and they played Florida and they played LAG. So they didn't really exactly play the best of competition relative to the team sort of above them, but we do need a tip. They went ahead and won both series, and this is respectable considering that, you know, they went through a stage where they didn't win a single match. They made a roster change. They surprisingly benched attached from the starting lineup, moved in Fame from their academy team. And yeah, I mean, in the case of this, they did manage to win 2 matches. So we got to give props on that one to Minnesota. I think to kind of move them, I think I'm going to slide them here because I think Florida and London and LAG are going to be kind of in the same category, and that just feels a little bit right. The kind of fish on Florida and London, man. Oof, London did not have a great weekend. They got absolutely choke slammed this weekend, like bad, like really, really bad. Like they made a roster change, bringing in Yuli, benching Paul X, you know, after the last major. And they didn't win a single map this weekend. They lost to Thieves and OPTIC. They lost to some really good teams. And we'll get to Thieves, sort of their new form in a second. But for London, I think bottom of the standings is kind of where they are. There's just been no movement there. Florida, well, they got 3-0'd by Rocker. So that was not great. And then they had a pretty gritty game 5 against FaZe. And I want to tip that, but they didn't ever end up actually winning or really being competitive last map. So they didn't get the W. We're going to put them right here. They have Seattle, Toronto, and Vegas coming up. So maybe some movement for Florida. But, you know, they didn't win a match this weekend. They went 0-2. Even though they played well against FaZe, I can't move them up a tier. Next up, we have Los Angeles Guerrillas because we obviously placed Rocker there already. They played Rocker and actually lost to them. And I got to be honest, to LAG, I think they might be a little bit better than Florida and London. But I'm officially kind of counting this team out for now. Their schedule is brutal. They got to play Thieves, Vegas, OPTIC, and Seattle. And I really don't see a win in there right now for them. So I think they're going to kind of join Florida and London being in the bottom of things as it stands. Next up, we have the Vegas Legion. And I think they're in a perfect spot right now. Them and Rock are essentially fighting for the 8th spot. And I think for me, I feel a little bit better about Vegas's form right now. I know Rocker won 2 matches this weekend, but Vegas only had 1 match against Boston, and they actually beat them 3-1. If you really, really think about it, Vegas has kind of won 3 of the last 4 matches, and they won 4 of the last 6 that they played. So their form is really good right now. Yes, they have some glaring weaknesses. Yes, they are still buns at control. But I'm feeling good about this battle between these 2 teams the rest of the season for that last champ spot. I think these are the 2 remaining real contenders. But obviously, if LAG or Florida or London go on a run, it's going to get things pretty exciting. So here's where we get to some interesting action. How do we rank these 4 teams? Because we'll get to the Sunday regulars. I don't think anyone's really moving from that category right now, but we'll get to Toronto. Now I'm thinking about it in a bit, but let's start with New York and talk a little bit about their weekend. So we know that New York had a tough major 3, so I think they had a lot to prove in this stage to really get out of sort of the doldrums of this tier. And honestly, before this weekend, I might have even have put them here, to be honest. Like, I might have put them here before the weekend. But they did pull up to FaZe and beat them in a game 5. That was their only match this weekend. But they looked good, much more improved than the last major. My concern with New York, though, is they kind of their last qualifier started out the same way. They looked really good against Rocker in Florida, and we were feeling good, and then sort of the inconsistency settled in. So, you know, I like the 2 hardpoint wins over FaZe in the game 5 round 11. Like, they iced up. That being said, I think we're going to learn a decent amount about this New York team. They have some beatable opponents on their lineup like London, but they're going to play Minnesota, OPTIC, and Boston as well. So I think there's some interesting competition for New York. I'm going to leave them right here because I don't think I'm going to put them above Boston or Seattle yet. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Thieves, and they had a really clean weekend. They beat London in 3 games and a 3-1 Seattle. So I think automatically we'll put them here. It's just a question of with Thieves. Do we want to move them into Sunday regulars? I mean, their last major wouldn't really allow me to do that. Do I think they're better than Boston? I think they, based on form, might be better than Boston, you know, after this current weekend. I just think for now, I'm going to kind of leave them here. But another good weekend, I'll move them up. But a little bit of an improved result from Thieves. Starting to get a little consistent online. You like to see it. I think Boston and Seattle, we can almost talk about together. Starting with Seattle, they lost to Thieves, but they beat Toronto tonight. And then on the Boston front, they also went 1-1 this weekend, losing to Vegas and beating Toronto. So I guess the thing they have in common with both these teams is that they beat Toronto. I don't know what to make of that. I don't really know how to order these teams. I guess I'm still going to put Boston above Seattle based on the last major placement. But, bro, this speaks to the problem I have with this whole tier is like, this changes almost on a weekly basis. These teams are all pretty good. They all kind of lose to each other. So it still reinforces my fact that like these 7 teams can pretty much win any event. But decent showing from both these teams. Still some things to work on. But 1-1's not a bad start. All right, now we get to the Sunday regular tier, and I'm not going to move anybody out of this tier. Let's start with Toronto because I think a lot of people may come to me and say, Ben, well, they went 0-2 this weekend. Why won't you move them out of this tier? Well, it's simple. They lost to Boston and Seattle in a game 5. So they didn't get blown out in either series. Their S&D really let them down this weekend. They went 0-4 in search. And now is the reason they lost. So I'm moving them below OPTIC right now, above FaZe, because I think FaZe this weekend was also a little bit iffy. But I'm not moving Toronto down a tier. Some people in the comments might want me to move up Thieves and Toronto. I'm going to give it one more weekend before we do that swap. But your defending major champions, starting off 0-2, have a little bit of work to do. They have FaZe, Florida, and Vegas coming up. So let's see. There's some wins there. There are some wins there, but this FaZe match is going to be massive, so let's see what happens. And speaking of FaZe, one of the weirdest weekends we've seen them like online all year. 2 game 5s. They lost one to New York, game 5, round 11. And they beat Florida last map where BZ dropped like 15 kills or something crazy. But I don't think in either series that like the hard points looked super convincing. The S&Ds they split. Just an off weekend for FaZe. I know they're working on stuff, especially on the hard point. And people are obviously starting to figure out kind of how to sort of bite into their S&D record and counter threats. So I think they need to do a little bit of polish there. But bro, I just can't count this FaZe team out. They're 1-1. They're probably still going to go 3-2. They're still going to get top third. There's nothing for me to really push them down a tier. And looking at their schedule upcoming, Toronto, Rocker, and Seattle is a little bit tricky. I think they'll probably finish 3-2, man. It just is. Look at the schedule, it's just 3-2 again, bro. And last but not least, we got to finish with OPTIC. They only had 1 match this weekend. It was against London. They 3-0'd them. We know London's weak, so I don't want to give a lot of credit, but they looked pretty tidy in that matchup. Yeah, I mean, not much to say about OPTIC right now. Don't play them on Fortress Hardpoint. Like, things are looking good. They do have upcoming matches against New York, Thieves, LAG, and Boston. So, decently interesting schedule. A bunch of really good teams. I would say they're playing 3 of the top 7 teams, and then LAG. So, let's see what OPTIC gives us. But for now, I'm going to put them in this spot. I really just don't think the order of these tiers really matters, but some of y'all really do. So, you know, I made the change. It be what it be, but I feel pretty good about this list right now. The top 7's pretty set. There's 2 teams fighting for an 8th spot, and then there's 3 teams I think that are likely not going to make champs. So feel pretty good about this list right now. So yeah, that's it for the tier list video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more. Got some review content coming this week, a bunch of other fun stuff. We're gonna do a little bit of a Q&A video as well. So as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.